Before we dive in, please remember that the strategies discussed in this video are based on extensive research and experience in the field of education. However, every classroom and school district is unique. It's essential to adapt these ideas to your specific context and always follow your school's policies and guidelines. This presentation is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for official certification or district-mandated training. It's 3:15 p.m. on a Wednesday. The final bell screamed its release an hour ago, but you're still sitting at your desk, staring at a mountain of ungraded papers. You can still hear the echo of 30 different voices, feel the frantic energy of the day buzzing under your skin. You just spent 8 hours pouring every ounce of your soul into your students. You were a motivational speaker, a conflict mediator, a nurse, a counselor, and somewhere in between all of that, you tried to teach the Pythagorean theorem. And as you sit there under the flickering fluorescent lights, you ask yourself the question that haunts so many teachers across America. Am I even making a difference? If that feeling is familiar, you are not alone. A staggering 48% of teachers in the United States report feeling burned out, frequently or always. Nearly half. Think about that. Walk down the hallway of your school, and every other door holds a professional who feels like they are running on empty, trying to pour from a cup that has long since dried up. We entered this profession with a fire in our hearts, a deep-seated belief that we could shape the future. We were told we would be inspiration engines, world changers, but nobody prepared us for the relentless pressure, the ever-shifting curriculum standards, the emotional weight of carrying our students' burdens, and the feeling that we are constantly being asked to do more with less. And what is the system's answer to this crisis? Professional development. The two words that can make even the most passionate educator's eyes glaze over. We're pulled from our desperately needed prep time, herded into the library or auditorium, and subjected to what is so often a masterclass in wasted time. A death by PowerPoint presentation delivered by someone who hasn't been in a real classroom since the turn of the century. We're handed a thick binder full of theories and jargon that has absolutely no connection to the reality of getting a third grader to understand fractions or a high schooler to care about Shakespeare. That binder gets placed on a shelf in our classroom, where it becomes a monument to good intentions and poor execution, gathering dust next to last year's binder. This is the fundamental disconnect. The professional development we are given is often a one-size-fits-all solution for a profession that is anything but. It's a box-checking exercise for the administration, not a genuine tool for empowerment for us, the educators on the front lines. It talks about a hypothetical perfect classroom that doesn't exist, with hypothetical perfect students who always listen, and a hypothetical perfect teacher who has unlimited time and energy. It doesn't address the real challenges we face every single day. Well, this is where that changes. This series is not that kind of professional development. This is your new playbook. This is a 10-part journey designed by teachers for teachers to give you the practical, actionable, and frankly life-saving strategies you need to not just survive in the classroom, but to thrive. We are going to cut through the noise, ditch the abstract theory, and focus on what actually works in a modern American classroom. This is about reclaiming your time, reigniting your passion, and transforming your teaching practice from the inside out. We will solve the problems that keep you up at night. How do I engage the unengaged student? How do I manage a classroom that feels like it's spinning out of control? How do I build real, productive relationships with parents? How do I handle the crushing workload without sacrificing my own mental health? Over the next 10 parts, we are going to systematically rebuild your approach to teaching. We're going to start with the foundation, creating a classroom environment where respect is the currency and students are active partners in their own learning, not just passive recipients of information. From there, we'll dive deep into the art and science of student engagement, uncovering psychological triggers that capture and hold attention. We'll give you a communications toolkit to turn even the most difficult parent-teacher conferences into productive alliances. We will equip you with time management and productivity hacks specifically for educators, so you can finally leave work at a reasonable hour and have a life outside of school. And most importantly, we will tackle the beast of burnout head-on, giving you the mindset shifts and self-preservation strategies to build a long, happy, and impactful career. This isn't a collection of cute tips you can find on Pinterest. This is a comprehensive system for becoming a more effective, efficient, and fulfilled educator. So, where do we begin this transformation? It starts with one powerful foundational idea that will change the way you look at every single thing you do in your classroom. It's a concept borrowed from the world of economics, but its application in education is nothing short of revolutionary. It's called the Pareto principle, or more commonly, the 80-20 rule. The rule states that, for many events, roughly 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. For example, 80% of a company's profits often come from 20% of its customers. 80% of your laundry comes from 20% of the clothes you own. And here's the truth they don't tell you in your college education courses. 80% of your teaching success comes from 20% of your efforts. Conversely, and this is the part that stings, 80% of your stress, your frustration, and your exhaustion comes from a completely different 20% of your activities. Think about it. That one student whose behavior consistently derails your lesson, that's part of the 20% causing 80% of your classroom management headaches. That one type of assignment that takes you an entire weekend to grade, but yields minimal learning for the students? That's part of the 20% of your workload causing 80% of your burnout. The endless data entry, the redundant paperwork, the meetings that could have been an email, that's the 20% of your time that's draining 80% of your energy. On the flip side, what about the triumphs? That breakthrough moment when a struggling student's eyes light up with understanding? That probably came from a specific 20% activity, maybe a one-on-one conversation, a unique analogy you used, or a hands-on project. The strong classroom culture you've built? That likely comes from the 20% of your time you spend on morning meetings, personal check-ins, and relationship building. The moments that remind you why you became a teacher in the first place are almost always a result of that vital, high-impact 20%. The goal of a master teacher, a fulfilled teacher, is not to do more. It is not to work 80 hours a week or to sacrifice your well-being on the altar of education. The goal is to become a master at identifying your high-impact 20% and ruthlessly protecting it, nurturing it, and expanding it. The goal is also to identify the low-impact, high-stress 20% and begin to systematically reduce, delegate, or eliminate it. This is the mindset shift that underpins everything we are going to do together in this series. We are moving away from the busy teacher model and embracing the effective teacher model. We are trading the badge of honor that comes from being exhausted for the quiet confidence that comes from being impactful. Your value as an educator is not measured by how many hours you spend in the building. It is measured by the quality of your interactions, the depth of your students' learning, and the positive environment you create. So take a moment and let that sink in. What if you could get dramatically better results for your students and feel happier and more energized by actually doing less? Not less of the important stuff, but less of the draining, ineffective, soul-crushing stuff that has been piled onto your plate. What if you could reallocate that wasted energy toward the very things that brought you into teaching in the first place? It's not a fantasy. It is a strategic choice. The first step is simply awareness. For the rest of this week, I want you to become an observer of your own teaching. Carry a small notebook or open a note on your phone. At the end of each day, I want you to jot down 2 things. One moment where you felt you made a genuine, positive impact, and one moment that left you feeling completely drained or frustrated. That's it. Don't judge it, don't try to fix it yet. Just observe. We are gathering data. We are beginning to identify your personal 80-20s. Because once you can see the patterns, once you can distinguish the vital few from the trivial many, you gain power. You gain the ability to make conscious choices about where you invest your most precious resource, your energy. This simple act of observation is the doorway to transforming your entire professional life. So, how do we take this data and turn it into a concrete action plan? How do we build a classroom management system that targets that high frustration 20%? How do we design lessons that live entirely within that high-impact 20%? That requires a blueprint. It requires a new way of thinking about structure and a new set of tools. And the very first tool, the cornerstone of this entire approach, is something I call the 3 pillars of classroom flow. It's a framework that, once you see it, you'll never be able to unsee. It simplifies every single interaction you have with your students. And it is the essential first step to becoming an 80-20 teacher. We're going to build it together, piece by piece, starting right now. The first piece of this framework is a simple mental map, a 2x2 grid. Think of it as your new operating system for classroom management. It's called the behavioral matrix, and it's designed to do one thing: eliminate your decision fatigue. Because what truly exhausts us as teachers isn't the kids themselves. It's the endless split-second calculus we're forced to do 100 times a day. Is that behavior worth stopping the class for? Should I give a warning or a consequence? Do I call home? Do I ignore it? This constant churn burns more energy than a triple period block with no prep time. The behavioral matrix wipes that all away. Imagine a simple chart. Along the bottom, you have an axis for the severity of a behavior from low to high. And up the side, you have an axis for the frequency of that behavior from infrequent to frequent. This creates 4 distinct quadrants. And understanding which quadrant a behavior falls into tells you exactly how to respond. It takes the guesswork, the emotion, and the fatigue out of the equation. Let's start with the 2 quadrants that consume 80% of your daily energy. Quadrant 1 is in the bottom left. Low severity, infrequent behavior. These are the minor one-off annoyances. The student who drops a pencil. The quiet side comment that isn't really disruptive. The kid who hums for 10 seconds and then stops. The student who leans back in their chair just once. We can call this quadrant the glitches. They are minor, temporary deviations from the expected code of conduct. Now, how does the average, well-meaning but overwhelmed teacher handle a glitch? They often overreact. They stop the entire lesson, address the whole class, and turn a tiny, insignificant event into a 5-minute power struggle. They use a sledgehammer to hang a picture frame. The student tapping their pen becomes a public referendum on respect. This is a massive energy expenditure for a near-zero return. You've just traded the momentum of your entire lesson to fix a problem that would have likely fixed itself in 30 seconds. The 80-20 teacher, using the behavioral matrix, knows that the goal with the quadrant 1 glitch is to use the absolute minimum amount of energy and attention required to correct it. Your response should be as low severity as the behavior itself. This is the art of the micro-correction. What does that look like? It's proximity. You're teaching, you see the chair leaner, and you just walk over and continue your lesson from a spot right next to their desk. The chair legs magically find the floor. No words spoken. It's the look. The brief eye contact, maybe a slight head nod that says, "I see you. Let's get back on track." It's the quiet, private whisper as you walk by, "Hey, feet on the floor, thanks." The key is that the lesson never stops. The flow is uninterrupted. You are a pilot making a tiny course correction, not a flight attendant announcing emergency procedures. You are spending 1% of your energy on a 1% problem. For every glitch, your first question should be, what is the quietest, fastest, least disruptive way I can solve this? Master this, and you will reclaim hours of instructional time and gallons of emotional energy every single week. But then we have the other major energy drain. Let's move up the grid to quadrant 3. This is low severity but high frequency behavior. This is the student who isn't just tapping their pencil today. They tap their pencil every day. The student who calls out an answer without raising their hand, not once but 10 times a period. The student who is consistently 30 seconds late to class. The student who always forgets their homework. These are not glitches, these are the habits. And this is where so many teachers get stuck in a loop of frustration. Why? Because they mistakenly treat a habit like a glitch. Every single day, they use the same low-level intervention. Every day they say, "Please stop tapping." Every day they say, "Remember to raise your hand." Every day they say, "You're late again." And they get furious when the behavior doesn't change. They feel disrespected. They feel like the student is doing it on purpose. But you're playing the wrong game. You are resetting the same video game level every day and expecting a different outcome. It's maddening. The 80-20 teacher knows a habit requires a completely different strategy. You cannot solve a pattern with a single instance intervention. The rule for quadrant 3 is this: address the pattern, not the instance. Your intervention must happen outside the moment of the behavior. Using a micro-correction on a chronic behavior is like putting a band-aid on a broken arm. It's a waste of your energy and the student's time. So, for the student who constantly calls out, you don't address it in the middle of your Q&A for the 10th time. You pull them aside for 30 seconds as everyone is packing up. "Hey Michael, I've noticed you have amazing ideas, but they're coming out so fast you're not giving anyone else a chance to think. I need you to work with me on raising your hand. Let's make it a goal. Tomorrow, let's see if you can get your hand up 3 times before you speak. Can we try that?" For the student who is always tapping their pencil, you have a quiet conversation. "Sarah, that tapping is becoming a distraction. Seems like you have some extra energy. What if we try this? I'll put a piece of felt on your desk and you can tap on that. Or maybe you can be my official materials passer-outer for the week." You're not punishing, you're problem-solving. You're acknowledging the pattern and trying to change the system that allows the pattern to continue. This is a fundamental shift. For quadrant 1 glitches, your response is in the moment, brief, and nonverbal if possible. For quadrant 3 habits, your response is planned, private, and verbal. It's a conversation about the pattern of behavior, not the single event. This distinction is everything. It stops you from feeling like you're in the movie Groundhog Day. It shows the student you see them as a person with a pattern, not just an annoyance in the moment. It is a slightly higher energy investment up front, a 2-minute conversation that saves you from dozens of frustrating low-impact corrections down the line. That is the essence of working smarter, not harder. So take a mental inventory of your classroom. Think about the behaviors that drain your energy. Can you start sorting them? Is that student's behavior a one-off glitch? Or is it a recurring habit? Just learning to ask that one question will change the way you see your classroom. It simplifies the complex and allows you to put your precious energy where it will actually make a difference. But what about the other half of the matrix? The big stuff, the high-severity behaviors. Quadrant 2 is for high-severity, infrequent behavior. The sudden shocking outburst. The student who cheats on a major test for the first time. The one-off fight. We can call these the shock waves. And in the top right we have Quadrant 4. High-severity, high-frequency. The student who is chronically defiant. The bully. The student in a constant state of crisis. These are the crises. These two quadrants are an entirely different world. They require a different toolkit, a different mindset, and often a different team of people. Micro-corrections and private chats won't cut it here. This is where documentation becomes non-negotiable, where parent and administrative contact is essential, and where your response must be calm, consistent, and incredibly deliberate. Getting these wrong doesn't just drain your energy. It can derail your entire classroom culture, and in some cases, your career. And building the precise, effective strategies for those high-stakes situations is exactly where we're going next. Let's start with a scene. It's a Tuesday afternoon in October. A second-year teacher, we'll call her Ms. Evans, is trying to teach the 3 branches of government. She's passionate, she's prepared. She has a great interactive lesson planned. But her 5th grade classroom has a different kind of energy. It's a low hum of chaos that's quickly escalating into a roar. Pencils are tapping, whispers are turning into side conversations, and one student, Leo, is the undeniable epicenter of the storm. Ms. Evans has tried everything in her limited toolkit. The quiet signal, the countdown, proximity. She's moved Leo's seat 3 times since September. Nothing works. Today, he's making sound effects every time she says the word, president. A low pew-pew laser sound. First, a few kids giggled. Now, half the class is doing it. Her lesson is completely derailed. Her heart is pounding. She feels her face getting hot. That familiar cocktail of frustration, embarrassment, and helplessness is brewing. She takes a deep breath and says for the 10th time, "Leo, that's enough." Leo looks her right in the eye, and with a smirk, he stands up on his chair. Then he climbs onto his desk. "I am the president," he declares. The president of not being bored. The room explodes. Some kids are laughing hysterically. Others are shouting. One is filming on a contraband phone. And in that exact moment of peak chaos, the classroom door opens. It's her principal, Mr. Harris, there for an unannounced observation. This is it. The teacher's nightmare. The moment where you feel like a total fraud, where all your training evaporates, where you have to make a split-second decision that will define the next hour, the next week, maybe even your relationship with this student in this class for the rest of the year. What do? The instinctive, lizard brain response is to match the energy in the room, to escalate, to shout. "Oh, get down from there right now. Get out. Go to the principal's office." You exert your authority through volume and threat. And let's be honest, sometimes it feels justified. It might even work in the short term. Leo gets down, shuffles out, and a tense, resentful silence falls over the room. You've won the battle, but you've just declared war. You've flooded his system, and your own with cortisol and adrenaline. You've made it a public power struggle, and you've taught the other 25 kids that the only way to solve conflict in this room is through dominance and punishment. You haven't taught a single thing about self-regulation, respect, or repair. The most critical professional development a teacher can receive revolves around mastering these high-stakes moments. It's not about having a clever bag of tricks. It's about a fundamental paradigm shift. The goal is not to control the student. The goal is to connect with the student and de-escalate the situation. You have to become an emotional firefighter, not an arsonist. So let's rewind the tape. Mr. Harris walks in. Leo is on the desk. The room is chaos. The first strategy is counterintuitive calm. While every fiber of your being is screaming, shout. You do the opposite. You lower your voice. You physically relax your shoulders. You take one slow, visible breath. You are not matching Leo's chaotic energy. You are offering him an anchor to your calm. This is co-regulation. He is neurologically incapable of finding his own calm in that moment. His amygdala is running the show. He needs to borrow yours. You don't address the entire roaring class. You focus on the one. You walk slowly towards Leo, not in a confrontational way, but at a slight angle. You keep your hands visible and unclenched. This is non-threatening body language. You stop a few feet away, giving him space. Then you speak, quietly, calmly, and with no audience but him. Leo, I can see you have a lot of energy right now. The desk is not safe. You have a choice. You can step down and we can talk at your seat, or you can step down and we can talk in the hall. What works for you? Let's break down why this is so powerful. First, you validated his feeling. I can see you have a lot of energy. You're not judging the feeling, just the behavior. Second, you stated a neutral fact. The desk is not safe. This isn't an accusation. It's an objective reality. Third, and most importantly, you gave him a choice. This is the secret key. His behavior standing on the desk is a desperate bid for power and control. By yelling "get down," you engage in a power struggle he is determined to win. By offering a choice, you hand him the power he was seeking, but you frame the choices so that either outcome is acceptable to you. He gets to feel in control, which deactivates his fight or flight response, and you get the primary thing you need, which is for him to get off the desk. He might still refuse. He might say, "I'm not doing either." The master-level teacher doesn't escalate. They hold the boundary with calm persistence. The desk is not safe, so we have to solve that part first. I'll be right here when you're ready to choose. You've now drawn a line, but you've done it with respect, not with force. You've given him the time and space to let his rational brain, his prefrontal cortex, come back online. And what about the rest of the class? And the principal in the doorway? In that moment, they don't matter. Your calm, focused, and respectful interaction with Leo is sending a more powerful message to everyone watching than any lecture on respect ever could. You are modeling emotional intelligence in real time. Now let's say Leo steps down. The fire is out, but the work is not done. This is where most classroom management systems fail. They stop at compliance. The truly effective professional knows the most important part comes next, the repair. Later that day or the next morning, you have a restorative conversation. This is not a lecture. It is not a punishment. It is a structured dialogue designed to build empathy and fix the harm. You sit down with Leo one-on-one and you might use a simple script. You start with, "Can you tell me what happened yesterday from your perspective?" And then you just listen. You let him tell you he was bored, that the work was too hard or too easy, that he wanted to make his friends laugh. You just listen. Then you ask, "What were you thinking and feeling at that moment?" This helps him connect his actions to his emotions, a foundational skill of emotional intelligence. The next question is the most critical. Who do you think was affected by what you did? He might say, "Nobody." You gently guide him. "Well, what did the other students do? How do you think I felt? Do you think we were able to learn about the branches of government after that?" You're not shaming him. You're building his capacity to see beyond himself. And finally, the last question. What do you think needs to happen to make things right? He is now part of the solution. Maybe he suggests apologizing to the class. Maybe he helps you reteach the part of the lesson that was missed. The solution comes from him, which means it's meaningful, not just a punishment he has to endure. This approach, de-escalation, co-regulation, and repair, is not a quick fix. It's an investment. It takes more time than writing a referral. It requires immense patience and emotional control. But it transforms your classroom. It turns high-stakes confrontations into opportunities for connection. It teaches children that when they make a mistake, they will be met not with rejection, but with a process for restoration. You stop being the classroom cop and start being the coach. This is the deep, meaningful, and often untaught skill that separates the teachers who burn out from the teachers who build thriving, resilient classroom communities. It's about understanding the neuroscience of a dysregulated child and having a concrete, repeatable process to guide them back to baseline. It's one thing to manage a single explosive moment with one student, but how do you build an entire classroom culture and system that prevents these fires from starting in the first place? How do you move from being a firefighter to being an architect? That requires designing a completely different kind of classroom environment from day one. And that is the blueprint we are going to lay out next. This blueprint isn't about a single set of rules posted on a wall. It's a holistic design philosophy, an architectural approach to building a classroom where students feel safe, seen, and ready to learn. The architect teacher understands a fundamental truth. The environment dictates behavior. A chaotic, unpredictable environment will breed chaotic, unpredictable behavior. A structured, purposeful, and respectful environment will cultivate those same qualities in its students. So let's unroll these plans and look at the 3 core pillars of classroom design. The first pillar is the physical foundation. This is the literal nuts and bolts of your space. Too often, we inherit a classroom, arrange the desks in rows because that's how it's always been done, and call it a day. The architect asks a different question. How can my physical space do the work for me? Think of your classroom not as a container for students, but as a tool for learning. Every single choice, from the placement of a bookshelf to the flow of traffic, sends a message. Are your desks and rows facing you? The message is, I am the source of knowledge and your primary job is to listen to me. Is that the message you want to send all day, every day? For some activities, absolutely. But for others, what if you created zones? A collaboration corner with tables pushed together, a quiet solo workspace near a window, a comfortable reading nook with beanbags, and a central area for direct instruction. By designing the space with intention, you give students a nonverbal cue about the kind of work that happens there. You're building the expectation into the very furniture. Consider the flow. Where is your pencil sharpener? Your trash can? The turn-in bin? These are the high-traffic highways of your classroom. A common mistake is putting them all in one corner, creating a bottleneck of activity that is a magnet for distraction and minor conflicts. The architect spreads these resources out, creating clear, wide pathways. They think like a city planner, anticipating traffic jams and preventing them before the first bell rings. And most importantly, the architect gives ownership of the space to its inhabitants. A sterile room with store-bought posters feels like a hotel. A room decorated with student work, with charts co-created by the class, with a corner designed and maintained by the students themselves, that feels like a home. When students see their own efforts reflected on the walls, they develop a sense of pride and responsibility for the space. They are no longer just visitors in your room. They are citizens of their classroom. This isn't about making things pretty. It's about making the environment a shared investment. Once the physical foundation is laid, we move to the second and arguably most critical pillar, the social-emotional framework. This is the invisible architecture of your classroom, the culture, the relationships, the sense of belonging. A classroom can have the most beautiful, flexible seating in the world, but if students don't feel psychologically safe, no learning will happen. The firefighter reacts to social-emotional fires, the arguments, the hurt feelings, the meltdowns. The architect builds a fire-resistant community from day one. This work is front-loaded. The first 6 weeks of school are not about plowing through the curriculum. They are about building your society. The most effective teachers spend this time relentlessly, explicitly teaching, modeling, and practicing procedures. Not just rules, rules are about what not to do. Procedures are about how we do things here. How do we enter the room in the morning? How do we transition from math to reading? How do we ask for help without disrupting others? How do we disagree with an idea respectfully? Each of these is a skill. We would never expect a child to know how to solve a quadratic equation without teaching them. Why do we expect them to magically know how to navigate complex social situations under stress? The architect teacher breaks it down. They might say, "Class, when we line up for lunch, we are going to practice silent 10. That means for the first 10 feet out the door, we are completely silent to respect the class is still working. Let's practice it. Okay, that was good, but I saw a few people looking at their friends. Let's try again, this time our eyes are facing forward. Perfect." It might feel slow, even tedious, but every minute spent practicing a procedure in September is an hour of instructional time saved in February. You are automating the mundane so you can focus on the magnificent. You're building a shared language and a set of cultural norms that reduce friction and anxiety, creating a predictable environment where students' brains can switch off the "what am I supposed to be doing right now?" panic and focus on learning. This framework is built on relationships. It's built through morning meetings where every student is greeted by name. It's built through restorative conversations that focus on repairing harm, rather than just assigning punishment. It's built by actively teaching empathy, by celebrating both successes and glorious failures as learning opportunities. You are not just a teacher. You are the community leader, the culture keeper. You are intentionally designing a society where every member feels they have a voice and a stake in its success. With the physical and social structures in place, we arrive at the third pillar, the intellectual scaffolding. This is where classroom management and instruction become one and the same. The architect knows an uncomfortable truth. A bored or confused student is a disruptive student. The single greatest behavior management tool in your arsenal is a well-designed, highly engaging lesson. The firefighter spends their energy trying to re-engage students who have already checked out. The architect designs a lesson that is so compelling, students don't have the time or the inclination to disengage in the first place. This means anticipating the failure points. Before you even teach, you ask yourself, where will they get stuck? What part of these directions is unclear? At what point in this activity will their energy start to wane? And then you design for it. You build in a turn and talk before they get to the confusing part. You include a quick movement break or a change in activity right before you anticipate their focus will dip. You provide sentence starters and graphic organizers to support students who might struggle to organize their thoughts. This is proactive instruction. It's the difference between asking, "Does anyone have any questions?" to a sea of blank stares and saying, "I want everyone to turn to their partner and explain the first step in their own words. Go." The first is passive. The second is an active, low-stakes check for understanding that gets everyone involved and reveals misconceptions immediately. The architect also designs for high engagement by building in voice and choice. Instead of one single essay prompt, can you offer 3? Instead of a worksheet, can students show their understanding by creating a short video, a poster, or a skit? When students have agency over their learning, their motivation skyrockets, and classroom management issues plummet. You're not managing compliance, you're fostering engagement. An engaged mind is too busy wrestling with ideas to think about throwing a pencil. So the blueprint is clear. A thoughtfully designed physical foundation that makes the space work for you. A robust social-emotional framework that builds a safe and predictable community. And sturdy intellectual scaffolding that makes learning so irresistible that misbehavior becomes the less interesting option. These 3 pillars work together to create a classroom that doesn't need a firefighter, because the architect has already designed a space that is resilient, supportive, and built for success. But a building, no matter how well designed, is nothing without the people inside it. We've laid out the blueprint for the environment, for the community as a whole. But how do you connect with each individual? How do you build the specific, powerful one-on-one relationships that turn a good teacher into a life-changing one? That is the art of building the bridge from you to them, and it's precisely what we will deconstruct next. It starts with a single thread. A connection so small, so seemingly insignificant, you might miss it if you blink. This bridge isn't built with grand gestures or sweeping pronouncements. It's built with quiet observation, with genuine curiosity, and with the radical decision to see the person before you see the student. Let me tell you about a student I once knew. We'll call him Marcus. Marcus was a ghost in my classroom. He wasn't a behavior problem. He didn't disrupt the class or challenge my authority. He was arguably harder to reach. He was invisible. He'd slide into his seat just as the bell rang, hood up, eyes down. His work was always turned in, but it was the bare minimum. C+ work. Just enough to pass, just enough to not draw attention. He was an expert at being forgettable. And for the first month of school, I let him be. I had 28 other students. I had lesson plans to create, papers to grade, parents to email. I had the loud kids who demanded my attention and the struggling kids who needed my intervention. Marcus was fine. But he wasn't. No kid who actively tries to be invisible is fine. I knew this, but the sheer triage of teaching kept pushing him to the bottom of the list. I tried the standard techniques. I'd call on him in class, hoping to draw him out. He'd give a one-word answer, his eyes darting around the room, desperate for the spotlight to move on. I'd write, "Great point, Marcus. Can you expand on this?" on his papers. The next paper would come back with the same minimal effort. I was broadcasting, but he wasn't receiving. The bridge was out. The change came from a piece of professional development I almost skipped. It was an after-school workshop on a Tuesday, and I was exhausted. But the title was intriguing. The 2x10 strategy. The concept was deceptively simple. Pick one student you're struggling to connect with. 4 2 minutes every day, 4 10 consecutive school days. Have a one-on-one, non-academic, non-disciplinary conversation with that student. 2 minutes. 10 days. That's it. The facilitator explained the psychology. It's about consistency. It's about demonstrating genuine, personal interest. For a student like Marcus, who likely felt unseen, this strategy was a direct and repeated signal. I see you. I care about you beyond your grades. You, as a person, matter to me. Sounded too simple. It felt like another thing to add to an already impossible to-do list. But I thought of Marcus's downcast eyes and decided to try it. Day 1 was awkward. I caught him as he was packing his bag. "Hey Marcus," I said, trying to sound casual. "Just wanted to ask, what's the best video game you're playing right now?" He physically flinched like he'd been caught doing something wrong. He mumbled, "I dunno. Call of Duty, I guess." Then he slung his backpack on and practically ran out the door. The conversation lasted maybe 15 seconds. I felt like a failure. Day 2 wasn't much better. "Hey Marcus, see any good movies lately?" A shake of the head. "No." And he was gone. Day 3 I almost gave up. But the commitment was for 10 days. I had to see it through. This time I switched tactics. I didn't ask a question. I made an observation. "Hey Marcus, that's a cool logo on your hoodie. Is that from a band?" He stopped. He actually stopped and looked at me for the first time. "It's a skate brand," he said. And then a whole sentence. "My older brother got it for me." It was a breakthrough. The conversation still only lasted 30 seconds, but it was a start. For the next 7 days, I learned about his older brother who was a mechanic. I learned he was trying to master a kickflip on his skateboard and kept scraping his shins. I learned he had a dog, a goofy pit bull mix named Buster. I never once mentioned his grades, his missing assignments, or his lack of participation. We just talked. About him. For 2 minutes. Day 10 came and went. I had fulfilled the strategy. On day 11, something remarkable happened. As I was starting class, Marcus came up to my desk. He'd never done that before. He quietly said, "My brother got the carburetor on his project car working last night. I helped him." He was smiling. A small, genuine smile. He wanted to share his victory with me. The thread had been spun. The bridge was built. And what happened in the classroom? It was like a light switch had been flipped. He started raising his hand. Tentatively at first, then with more confidence. His answers were no longer one word. They were thoughtful and insightful. His C+ work became B+, then A-. He started talking to the kids around him. He took his hood down. It turned out Marcus had a sharp sense of humor. He wasn't a ghost. He was a kid who was afraid no one wanted to see him. The 2x10 strategy didn't just change Marcus. It changed me. It fundamentally rewired how I viewed my role. I stopped seeing classroom management as a game of whack-a-mole, dealing with problems as they pop up. I started seeing it as a process of proactive connection building. The time investment is minuscule, but the return is astronomical. Think about it. How many hours do we spend dealing with the fallout from a disengaged or disruptive student? The redirected behavior, the parent phone calls, the administrative write-ups. That's all time. 2 minutes a day for 2 weeks is 20 minutes. 20 minutes to potentially save hours of struggle and frustration, and more importantly, to change a student's entire experience of school. Now I know what you're thinking. I have 35 students in my class. I can't do this for everyone. And you're right. You don't do it for everyone at once. You start with one. You start with your Marcus, the student who is challenging you the most, or the one who is so quiet you forget they're there. You make that connection. And the funny thing is, connection is contagious. When the other students see you genuinely connecting with a student, especially a student they perceive as difficult, it changes the entire dynamic of the room. It sends a powerful message. This is a place where everyone is seen. This is a place where everyone belongs. Finding those 2 minutes isn't as hard as it seems. It's the conversation you have while they're walking in the door. It's the check-in while they're working independently. It's the quick chat in the hallway between periods. It doesn't have to be a formal sit-down meeting. Just has to be real. The key is that it's not about school. Ask about their weekend, their favorite music, a show they're watching, their part-time job. You are communicating that their identity is not solely defined by their academic performance in your classroom. You are acknowledging their humanity. This isn't a magic bullet. It won't solve every problem, but it lays the foundation upon which everything else is built. You cannot teach a student who doesn't trust you. You cannot inspire a student who feels invisible. Before we can ever hope to fill their minds with knowledge, we must first show them that we see their hearts. That single intentional act of building a bridge with one student is the most powerful professional development you will ever undertake. It transforms them, it transforms you, and it transforms the patch of the world that exists within the four walls of your classroom. But what happens when that bridge is built? When Marcus feels seen by you? That's only half the equation. The classroom is a community, an ecosystem. A student's relationship with their teacher is critical, but so are their relationships with each other. How do you take that individual connection and weave it into a strong, resilient, and supportive classroom culture? How do you turn a room full of individual desks into a unified team? That's where we go from building bridges to building a city. And that architecture of community is our next blueprint. The first mistake we make is calling it classroom management. That very phrase conjures images of control, of enforcement, of a teacher standing as a warden over 30 inmates who would rather be anywhere else. We think of clip charts, color-coded warnings, and a rulebook as thick as a phone book. But that's not building a city. That's building a prison. And in a prison, the primary motivation is to not get caught. In a thriving city, the motivation is to contribute, to belong, to be a valued citizen. The shift, the one that changes everything, is from classroom management to classroom culture. Management is reactive. It's what you do when things go wrong. Culture is proactive. It's the environment you build that prevents things from going wrong in the first place. It's the air students breathe. It's the invisible architecture that dictates how people treat each other, how they handle failure, and how they celebrate success. It's the difference between a room full of students who comply out of fear and a team that collaborates out of mutual respect. So, how do we draft this blueprint? It starts on day one, not with a list of rules, but with a question. A single powerful question you pose to your students. How do we want to feel in this classroom? Think about that. You're not asking what the rules should be. You're asking about a feeling. You'll get words like safe, respected, happy, curious, proud. Write them all down. This is the foundation. This is the emotional bedrock of your city. The next question logically follows. Okay, if we want to feel safe and respected, what do our actions, my actions and your actions, need to look like? What does respect sound like? What does safety look like? Now, you're not the one dictating. You are the facilitator of a constitutional convention. The students will generate the rules themselves, but they're not just rules. They are behaviors directly linked to the feelings they want to protect. Instead of don't shout out, they might come up with, we raise our hand so everyone feels heard and respected. Instead of don't run, it becomes, we walk so everyone feels safe. These aren't your rules anymore. They are our agreements. They are the social contract of Room 204. You write this up, you give it a title like the Room 204 Constitution or Our Class Promise, and every single student, and you signs it. This document is now the ultimate authority in the room. When a behavior issue arises, you don't have to be the bad guy. You can be the coach. You can walk over to a student and say quietly, hey, take a look at our Constitution. The action I just saw, does it help us feel safe and respected like we all agreed? Suddenly, discipline is no longer a power struggle between you and a child. It's a conversation about upholding an agreement the child themselves helped create. They have ownership. They are citizens, not subjects. This single shift from imposed rules to co-created agreements is the most powerful culture-building tool you have. But a constitution is just a piece of paper if it isn't lived. Great cultures are built on rituals and routines. I'm not just talking about where to turn in homework. I'm talking about the human rituals that build connection. A sports team has chants and pregame huddles. A family has inside jokes and holiday traditions. What are your classroom's traditions? Maybe it's a unique handshake you give every single student as they enter the room. A moment of eye contact and personal connection before the day even begins. Maybe it's a morning meeting, where for 10 minutes, you sit in a circle and share something, do a quick activity, and read a message that sets a positive tone for the day. This isn't wasted instructional time. This is instructional time. You're teaching community, empathy, and communication, skills that make the academic learning possible. Maybe it's a call-in response you use to get their attention, not a jarring bell or a flick of the lights, but something that reinforces your team identity. You say, all right, innovators, and they respond, let's create. You say, okay, scholars, and they say, let's learn. It's a small thing, but over 180 days, these small things become the mortar that holds your city's bricks together. End-of-day rituals are just as crucial. Don't let the bell be a signal for a chaotic stampede. Create a closing circle, a 5-minute ritual where you share shout-outs for classmates who showed respect, or helped a friend, or persevered through a tough problem. This reinforces the values of your constitution. It ends the day on a note of gratitude and community, sending students home feeling seen and valued, making them eager to return to the city the next day. The final pillar of this architecture is shifting the entire classroom mindset from compliance to contribution. A job chart is a good start, but we can do better than pencil sharpener and line leader. We need to frame these roles as vital contributions to the community's success. You don't just have a paper passer. You have a director of communications. You don't have a plant waterer. You have a chief botanist. You have a lead librarian who recommends books, a tech guru who helps with computer issues, a greeter who welcomes any guest to the classroom and explains what the class is working on. Give these jobs real meaning and authority. Let the students apply for them. Let them feel the weight and pride of their contribution. When a student sees themselves not as someone who has to follow the rules, but as someone who is essential to making the classroom work, their entire perspective changes. They are no longer a passive recipient of education. They are an active co-creator of their community. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This all sounds great for a normal class, but what about that kid? The one who will tear up the Constitution, disrupt every ritual, and refuse to contribute. Here's the beautiful, counterintuitive truth. A strong, positive classroom culture is your single most effective tool for reaching that child. Because in a culture of compliance, it's just the teacher versus the student. In a culture of community, it's the student's behavior versus the entire community they helped build. The social pressure to belong is immense. When that student sees everyone else participating in a handshake, a shout-out, a shared goal, the desire to be a part of that group is a far more powerful motivator than any threat of punishment. It doesn't mean the problems disappear overnight, but it changes the entire dynamic of your response. Instead of isolating them, you pull them closer. You give them the most important job. You ask them for their opinion on how to make the classroom better. You reinforce their value to the city, especially when they feel worthless. You're not fixing a broken part. You're reminding a citizen that they belong. This is the blueprint, a co-created constitution that gives everyone ownership, intentional rituals that build connection and identity, and a focus on contribution that gives every student a sense of purpose. When you build this, you stop managing a classroom and you start leading a community. You create an ecosystem where students can take academic risks, support each other through struggles, and grow not just as learners, but as people. But once this incredible self-sustaining city is built, what do you actually do in it? How do you teach the diverse citizens within its walls? Building the culture is the essential foundation, but now we need to construct the buildings of knowledge. How do we design lessons that engage every single learner, from the one who's struggling to keep up, to the one who's already miles ahead? That's where we turn from architect to engineer, and start talking about the mechanics of masterful instruction. The first and most powerful mechanism at our disposal is something called differentiated instruction. Now that sounds like a dry academic term, but what it really means is this: abandoning the idea of the average student. Because that student doesn't exist. Trying to teach to the middle is like a tailor making every single suit a size 40 regular. It'll fit a few people perfectly, be too tight or too baggy for most, and be completely useless for the rest. Differentiated instruction is bespoke tailoring for the mind. It's the radical and yet commonsensical idea that we should meet students where they are, not where a curriculum guide says they should be. This isn't about creating 30 different lesson plans for 30 different students every single day. That's a recipe for burnout. It's about being strategic. It's about offering different paths to the same destination. Think about it in 3 key areas: the content, the process, and the product. The content is what students learn. For a unit on the solar system, some students might read a chapter in the textbook. Others who struggle with dense text might get a highly visual infographic or watch a short documentary. And your advanced learners? Maybe they're reading an article from NASA's website about the search for exoplanets. The core learning objective, understanding the planets in our solar system, is the same for everyone. But the entry point is different. The access ramp is customized. Next is the process. This is how students make sense of the content. After they've learned about the solar system, what do? A traditional classroom says, "Everyone, answer questions 1 through 10 at the end of the chapter." The differentiated classroom says, "You can work with a partner to build a model, you can work alone to create a travel brochure for a trip to Mars, or you can join a small group to debate which planet would be the best to colonize." Again, the goal is the same, to process and apply their knowledge. But the method honors the fact that some students think best by building, some by writing, and others by talking. You're giving them agency, and with agency comes engagement. Finally, the product. This is how students show what they've learned. The one-size-fits-all test is the enemy of authentic assessment. For some students, a timed, multiple-choice test is a perfect showcase of their knowledge. For others, it's a showcase of their anxiety. The product can be differentiated. Let them demonstrate their mastery in a way that aligns with their strengths. Could it be a written report? Sure. But it could also be a podcast episode, a presentation to the class, a coded animation of the planet's orbits, or a detailed illustration. When you give students choice in how they show their learning, you're not just assessing their knowledge of the solar system. You're assessing their ability to communicate, create, and think critically. You're getting a far truer picture of what they actually know and can do. Now, I can hear what some of you are thinking. This sounds great in theory, but it also sounds like an impossible amount of work. How can one teacher possibly manage all these moving parts? This is where the second mechanism comes in. This is the force multiplier. This is technology integration. But I need to be very, very clear. Technology is not a magic wand. A boring worksheet is still a boring worksheet if you just make it a feasible PDF. A disengaging lecture is still a disengaging lecture if it's delivered via PowerPoint. The goal of technology is not to replace the teacher. It's to amplify the teacher's impact. It is the tool that makes true differentiation scalable and manageable. Let's go back to our solar system unit. That teacher who wanted to provide 3 different reading levels? Instead of spending hours hunting for articles, she uses a platform like Newsela, which has an article on a current NASA mission and allows her to instantly assign it to students at 5 different reading levels with the click of a button. The content is differentiated in seconds. For the process, instead of just a verbal debate, students can use a tool like Kialo to host a structured, written debate online, allowing quieter students to formulate their thoughts and contribute just as much as the more outspoken ones. They can use Canva to design their travel brochures, giving them professional-grade design tools to bring their ideas to life. For the product, students can use simple video editing software on their phones to create their documentaries, or a free program like Scratch to code that animation of the planets. Technology, when used correctly, breaks down the 4 walls of the classroom. It connects students to authentic audiences and real-world tools. But most importantly, it frees up the teacher's most valuable resource, time. While students are engaged on their different pathways, the teacher is no longer tethered to the front of the room, delivering a single stream of information. They are now free to become what they were always meant to be: a facilitator, a coach, a mentor. They can pull a small group of struggling students for targeted support. They can go and push the high flyers with a challenging question. Technology manages the logistics so the teacher can focus on the humans. It automates the mundane so the teacher can orchestrate the magnificent. But there's a critical piece missing. We have our customized pathways, differentiation. We have our powerful tools to make it happen, technology. But how do we know if we're on the right track? How do we know which student needs which pathway? A pilot flying a plane from New York to Los Angeles doesn't just point the nose west and hope for the best. She is constantly checking her instruments, her altitude, her speed, her direction, and making tiny, constant adjustments. For a teacher, those instruments are the third mechanism: formative assessment. This is perhaps the most misunderstood and yet most powerful tool in our entire toolkit. When most people hear the word assessment, they think of a final exam, a summative test, the big high-stakes event at the end of a unit. That's like a pilot only checking her instruments after she's supposed to have landed. It's too late. The journey is over. Formative assessment is the complete opposite. It's the constant, low-stakes, often informal gathering of data during the learning process. It's the teacher's dashboard. What does this look like? It's not another test. It can be as simple as an exit ticket. At the end of class, you ask students to write the answer to one single question on a sticky note and put it on the door as they leave. In 90 seconds, you can scan those notes and see exactly who got it, who was close, and who is completely lost. It's a quick poll using a tool like Kahoot or a simple show of hands. It's observing the room, listening in on group conversations, and asking targeted questions. It's having students do a fist to 5 self-assessment, holding up 5 fingers if they're confident, and a fist if they're totally confused. This data isn't for the gradebook. It's for the teacher's lesson plan tomorrow. The exit tickets show that a third of the class is still confusing rotation with revolution. Okay, Tomorrow's warm-up is a quick, hands-on activity to clarify that exact concept. The group conversations reveal that one group has a brilliant idea that could benefit everyone. Okay, tomorrow starts with them sharing their breakthrough. Formative assessment makes teaching responsive. It turns a monologue into a dialogue. It stops us from just covering curriculum and ensures students are actually learning it. These three mechanisms, differentiated instruction, technology integration, and formative assessment, are not separate ideas. They are a deeply interconnected, cyclical system. The formative assessment data tells you how you need to differentiate. The technology provides the tools to differentiate efficiently, and the differentiated activities provide new opportunities to gather more formative data. Teach, assess, adjust. Teach, assess, adjust. This is the engine of a masterful classroom. It is the engineering that brings the architectural blueprint of a great lesson to vibrant, dynamic life. We've engineered the perfect lesson plan, a responsive and powerful engine for learning. But an engine, no matter how perfectly designed, is just a hunk of metal without fuel. It needs a source of power. More than that, it needs to exist within a vehicle that is safe, reliable, and headed in the right direction. A lesson is nothing without a classroom culture that allows it to thrive. So how do we build that? How do we create a space where students feel safe enough to take risks, curious enough to ask questions, and motivated enough to drive their own learning? The answer isn't a silver bullet program or a fancy poster on the wall. It starts with a fundamental shift in thinking. We have to move away from the idea of classroom management, which sounds like we're managing inventory or controlling a herd, and move toward the concept of classroom culture, which is about intentionally cultivating an ecosystem. An ecosystem where every single student feels seen, heard, and valued. The bedrock of this ecosystem is relationships. It's the single most powerful tool in your toolkit, and it costs absolutely nothing. Think about it. Are you more likely to work hard for a boss you respect and feel connected to, or one who just barks orders? Our students are no different. Building genuine relationships isn't about being their best friend. It's about being their trusted adult, their guide. This is the work that happens in the margins. It's learning their names and pronouncing them correctly in the first 2 days. It's greeting every single student at the door with a smile and a handshake or a high five. It's the 2x10 strategy. Spending 2 minutes a day for 10 consecutive days talking to your most challenging student about anything other than school. You'll be stunned at the transformation. When a student knows you care about them as a person, not just as a data point, their entire motivation for being in your room changes. They become invested not just in the grade, but in the community you're building together. Once that foundation of relationships is laid, you can start building the structure. And that structure isn't a list of rules. It's a set of co-created norms and expectations. What's the difference? Rules are what you can't do, and they're often imposed from the top down. No talking when the teacher is talking. No getting out of your seat. They're about compliance. Norms, on the other hand, are about what we will do to be a successful community. They're about contribution. Instead of starting the year with a list of prohibitions, imagine starting with a conversation. Ask your students, what does a respectful classroom look like? Sound like? Feel like? What do we need from each other to do our best work? How will we handle disagreements when they happen? You guide the conversation, but they generate the ideas. They might say things like, we listen when one person is speaking, or we can disagree with ideas but not with people, or we help each other when we're stuck. You write these down in their words. These aren't your rules anymore. They are our agreements. And because the students created them, they have ownership. They become the guardians of the culture, not just subjects of it. They'll hold each other accountable far more effectively than you ever could on your own. But what happens when those norms are broken? Because they will be. This is where another massive professional development shift is taking place. The move from punitive discipline to restorative practices. The old model is about punishment. A student disrupts class, they get a detention. They break something, they get suspended. The focus is on the rule that was broken and the punishment that follows. The problem is, this rarely teaches the student anything, other than to not get caught next time. It often escalates conflict and damages the very relationships you worked so hard to build. Restorative practices flip the script. The focus isn't on the rule, but on the harm that was done and how to repair it. Let's imagine a student, we'll call him Leo, gets frustrated and throws a textbook, breaking a classmate's project. The punitive response is an automatic office referral, maybe a suspension. Leo is removed and the problem is solved. But is it? The student whose project was broken is still upset. The rest of the class is still unsettled. And Leo has learned nothing about managing his frustration. The restorative response looks different. Starts with a conversation, not a lecture. The teacher pulls Leo aside and asks a series of questions. What happened? What were you thinking at the time? What have you thought about since? And then the most important questions. Who has been affected by what you did? And what do you think you need to do to make things right? Maybe Leo has to help his classmate rebuild the project. Maybe he has to stand before the class, apologize for the disruption, and explain how he's going to handle his frustration differently next time. The consequence is directly linked to the action. It's about repairing the harm, rebuilding the trust, and restoring the student to the community. It's harder. It takes more time than writing a referral, but it's the difference between putting a bandage on a problem and actually healing the wound. It teaches empathy, accountability, and problem solving, skills that will serve students for their entire lives. Now, building this kind of culture isn't just about these big philosophical shifts. It's also about small, consistent daily actions. It's about using positive narration. Instead of yelling, "Stop talking," you say, "I see Jason and Maria are ready to begin, thank you." You're highlighting the desired behavior, not giving attention to the negative. It's about giving students meaningful jobs in the classroom. A tech expert, a librarian, a greeter. This fosters a sense of responsibility and belonging. It's about holding regular class meetings or circles, where students have a dedicated time to share successes, solve problems, and build community. These small deposits in the culture bank add up, creating a reserve of goodwill that you can draw on when things get tough. And let's be honest, things will get tough. This isn't a magical utopia. You will have students with deep-seated trauma, significant behavioral challenges, and who test every boundary you set. This is where the concept of the warm demander comes in. This is the teacher who refuses to choose between being nice and having high expectations. They are both. They are warm. They build relationships, show empathy, and offer unwavering support. But they are also demanders. They have crystal clear expectations for both behavior and academic effort, and they will not lower that bar. They say, "I care about you too much to let you fail," or "This is hard, and I know you can do it, and I am here to help you every step of the way." They communicate a profound belief in their students' potential, and students will rise to meet that belief. Consistency is their mantra. They are fair, they follow through, and their students know that the structure is there not to confine them, but to keep them safe so they can soar. Ultimately, a well-cultivated classroom culture does more than just improve behavior. It creates the psychological safety necessary for deep learning to occur. When students aren't in a state of fight or flight, worried about what a classmate might say, or whether they'll be embarrassed for giving a wrong answer, their brains are freed up. They can engage their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for critical thinking, creativity, and complex problem solving. A positive classroom culture isn't the soft stuff we do before the real work of teaching begins. It is the real work. It is the invisible architecture that supports every single academic endeavor. It's the fertile soil in which every seed of knowledge we plant can actually grow. Once you've built this incredible engine of a classroom, this safe and thriving community, how do you know it's actually working? How do you measure the growth, not just in behavior, but in deep, meaningful learning? That's where the art and science of assessment comes in. And for decades, the answer to that question was a test, a final exam, a high-stakes, end-of-unit assessment that felt less like a measure of learning and more like an autopsy. It told you what went wrong, but only after it was too late to fix it. We would teach and teach and teach, hoping the information was sticking, and then we'd give the big test to find out. But what if assessment wasn't the finish line? What if it was the GPS for the entire journey? What if, instead of performing an autopsy on learning, we were conducting regular, real-time checkups? This is the fundamental shift that separates good teachers from master educators. Understanding the profound difference between assessment of learning and assessment for learning. The first one, assessment of learning, is what we call summative assessment. It's the final exam, the state test, the end-of-chapter monster. It summarizes what a student has learned. It's the final score on the video game. It's important, it has its place, but it doesn't help the player get better while they're playing. The second one, assessment for learning, is the game changer. This is formative assessment. It's the constant, ongoing process of checking for understanding, providing feedback, and adjusting instruction on the fly. It's not the final score. It's the mini-map in the corner of the screen, the hints from a side character, the low health warning that tells you to find a different strategy. It's the information that empowers both the teacher and the student to make better decisions. Right here, right now. Think about the simplest, most powerful formative tool in a teacher's arsenal: the exit ticket. At the end of a lesson on, say, fractions, you ask students to answer 1 or 2 quick questions on a slip of paper before they leave. What was the most important idea from today's lesson? Or solve this one problem. 1/2 plus 1/4. In 2 minutes, as you glance through that stack of slips, you don't just have data. You have a story. You see that 80% of the class nailed the problem, but there's a small group of 4 students who all tried to add the numerators and denominators straight across. The old model, you wouldn't have discovered that specific misunderstanding until the chapter test, 3 weeks from now. By then, that misconception would be baked in, buried under layers of new, confusing information. But with this simple formative check-in, tomorrow morning you can pull that small group of 4 for a 5-minute huddle. You can reteach, use a different model, and fix the foundation before you build the rest of the house on it. That is the power of a checkup over an autopsy. Formative assessment isn't always a piece of paper. It's woven into the very fabric of your classroom. It's the classic think, pair, share. When you pose a challenging question, you don't just call on the one student with their hand waving frantically. You say, turn to your partner and discuss. In that moment, the sound level in your room rises. But what's really happening is a classroom-wide assessment. You're walking around, you're listening in on conversations, you're hearing the language students are using, the connections they're making, the points where they get stuck. You are gathering dozens of data points in seconds. Or consider the power of individual whiteboards. You ask a question, and on the count of 3, every single student holds up their board with their answer. It's a live, visual dashboard of your classroom's understanding. You can see instantly who's with you, who's close, and who's completely lost. There's no hiding. But because it's low stakes, they just erase and try again. It's not about shame. It's about information. You now know exactly where to aim your next instructional move. Do you need to reteach the whole group? Do you need to pull a few students for support? Or are they ready for a bigger challenge? The whiteboards tell the story. This transforms the entire culture of the classroom. Assessment is no longer a gotcha moment, a tool for sorting and ranking. It becomes a collaborative process. It's you and the students working together with a shared goal: understanding. The feedback you give isn't just a number at the top of a page. It's a conversation. It's a comment that says, "This is a great start. Have you considered this piece of evidence?" Or, "Your calculation here is perfect, but let's reread the question to make sure we're solving for the right thing." The research on this is staggering. Education researchers Paul Black and Dylan William conducted a landmark review of hundreds of studies and found that high-quality formative assessment and feedback produced some of the largest learning gains ever recorded in educational research. It's one of the single most effective interventions we know of. Why? Because it closes the loop. It answers 3 critical questions for the student every single day. Where am I going? Where am I now? And what do I need to do to close the gap? Now, this doesn't mean we throw out summative assessments entirely. We still need to know what students have learned at the end of a unit. But we can make those summative assessments far more meaningful. Instead of a 50-question multiple-choice test on the Civil War, what about a performance-based assessment? What if students had to take on the role of a journalist from that era and produce a newspaper front page reporting on the Battle of Gettysburg, complete with articles, editorials, and political cartoons? To do that, they don't just need to recall dates and names. They have to analyze primary sources, understand different perspectives, synthesize complex information, and communicate it effectively. That is a far richer, more authentic assessment of deep understanding than just bubbling in an answer sheet. It assesses the skills we actually want them to have in the real world. Or consider the power of a portfolio. Instead of their grade being based on one final essay, students collect their writing over an entire semester. They include their first draft, messy and full of errors, alongside their final polished piece. They write a reflection on how their skills grew, what they struggled with, and what they're most proud of. This tells a story of progress. It honors the struggle and the growth, not just the final product. It empowers students to become assessors of their own learning, to see their own journey. Ultimately, this is what it means to be a data-driven teacher. And let's be clear, data is not a dirty word. It's not about endless spreadsheets or reducing kids to numbers. The data you get from an exit ticket isn't a number. It's the story of a specific misconception. The data you get from listening to a think, pair, share isn't a statistic. It's an insight into a student's thought process. The data from a portfolio isn't a final score. It's the narrative of a student's growth. Data is just the evidence we use to make better, more humane, more responsive decisions for the kids in front of us. It turns teaching from a static performance into a dynamic, responsive dance. You make a move, you see how the student responds, and you adjust your next move accordingly. It's this constant feedback loop, this dance of instruction and assessment, that powers a truly effective classroom. When you master this, you are no longer just a presenter of curriculum. You are a diagnostician of learning. You are a learning architect, designing experiences, checking the foundation, and adjusting the blueprints in real time to build something strong, meaningful, and lasting for every single student. But building this incredible machine, this classroom of deep engagement, powerful relationships, and responsive assessment, takes an immense amount of energy. It requires a level of personal and professional commitment that can, if we're not careful, lead straight to burnout. So how do we sustain it? How do we fuel this engine for an entire career without losing the passion that brought us here in the first place? That brings us to the final and perhaps most crucial piece of the puzzle. The final piece is not a new technology, a pedagogical framework, or a classroom management hack. It's the one thing we're almost never given a professional development day for, the one thing our mentors often forget to mention. It's the practice of radical self-preservation. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Self-care? I don't have time for that. I have papers to grade, parents to call, a curriculum to plan. And that right there, that mindset, is the most pervasive and dangerous myth in education, the myth of the teacher martyr. We've been sold a narrative that to be a good teacher is to be a selfless one, to be the candle that burns itself out to light the way for others. We see it in movies, we hear it in speeches. We're celebrated for our sacrifice. But a candle that burns out leaves everyone in the dark. The ultimate professional development, the one that makes all the others sustainable, is a fundamental shift in that paradigm. It's learning how to stop being a candle and start being a solar panel, absorbing energy, storing it, and providing a powerful renewable source of light for your students, year after year after year. This isn't about luxury. It's not about spa days and weekend getaways, though those are great if you can get them. This is about professional survival. It's about building a set of non-negotiable practices that protect your most valuable asset, your energy. Because a teacher running on empty cannot fill a student's cup. A stressed and overwhelmed teacher cannot create a calm and safe classroom. The state of your nervous system becomes the weather pattern in your room. So how do we do it? How do we build this internal infrastructure? It starts with two foundational pillars: boundaries and mindfulness. Let's talk about boundaries. In teaching, the demands are infinite. There will always be one more email to answer, one more resource to create, one more committee to join. The work will expand to fill every waking moment if you let it. A boundary is the conscious, deliberate act of saying, this far and no further. It's deciding that you will not answer parent emails after 6 p.m., not because you don't care, but because you care enough about the next day's students to be rested and present for them. It's learning to say no to that extra responsibility, not out of laziness, but out of a strategic allocation of your finite energy. Your no to an extra, non-essential task is a profound yes to having the emotional bandwidth for a breakthrough conversation with a struggling student tomorrow. It's leaving the stack of grading at school one night a week, trusting that the world will not end, so that you can go home and be a human being. A partner, a parent, a friend, or just a person who enjoys watching a TV show without a cloud of guilt hanging over their head. These aren't signs of weakness. They are the hallmarks of a professional who understands that this is a marathon, not a sprint. The second pillar is mindfulness. And I don't mean you need to become a Zen master and levitate during your prep period. I mean the simple, powerful act of checking in with yourself. It's the 3 deep breaths you take in your car before you walk into the building. It's the 60 seconds you spend at your desk before the bell rings, just noticing your feet on the floor, grounding yourself before the beautiful chaos begins. It's the practice of emotional regulation for the adult in the room. When a student pushes every single one of your buttons, mindfulness is the tiny gap you create between the trigger and your response. In that gap, you choose to respond with intention instead of reacting with instinct. This practice, more than any discipline chart or reward system, transforms classroom culture, because you are modeling the very regulation you want to see in your students. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer, setting the emotional temperature of the room instead of just reflecting it. Let me tell you about a teacher, we'll call her Maria. In her 5th year, she was a superstar. Her lessons were creative, Her students loved her. Her administrator praised her. She ran the after-school coding club and volunteered for the school improvement committee. From the outside, she was the ideal educator. On the inside, she was crumbling. She had constant anxiety, she wasn't sleeping, and for the first time, she dreaded the sound of the morning alarm. She was on the fast track to becoming another statistic, one of the 50% of teachers who leave the profession within their first 5 years. She was ready to quit. But then a veteran teacher in her building, someone who had been teaching for 30 years and still had a spark in her eye, pulled her aside. She didn't offer Maria a new organizational tool or a book on pedagogy. She just asked her, "What do you do that's just for you?" Maria drew a blank. Every moment was dedicated to her job. The veteran teacher's advice was simple. "Schedule it," she said. "Schedule 15 minutes a day for something that has nothing to do with school. Put it in your planner like it's a parent-teacher conference. And protect that time like it's the most important meeting of your day. Because it is." Maria started small. She scheduled a 15-minute walk around the block after school. Before she started grading, she put her phone on Do Not Disturb during that time. At first it felt selfish, unproductive. But then something shifted. That 15-minute pocket of decompression allowed her to approach her evening work with more focus. She started sleeping better. The next week, she committed to leaving school by 5 p.m. on Fridays, no matter what. The week after that, she said no when asked to join a third committee. Her revolution wasn't in her lesson plans. It was in her schedule. And a funny thing happened. Her teaching didn't suffer. It got better. She was more patient. She was more creative. She laughed more with her students. She hadn't lost her edge. She had found her foundation. She realized that by preserving her own well-being, she was actually giving a greater gift to her students. A teacher who was fully, truly present. This is the final piece of the puzzle. Over the course of this series, we've talked about understanding our students, leveraging technology, differentiating our instruction, building culture, using data, and communicating with stakeholders. Those are the essential skills. They are the tactical tools of our trade. But radical self-preservation? That is the strategy that makes it all possible. It's the foundation upon which the entire structure of a long, impactful, and joyful career is built. All the strategies we've discussed, they are the instruments in the orchestra. They are the violins, the cellos, the brass, and the percussion. But you, the teacher, you are the conductor. And a tired, overwhelmed, burnt-out conductor cannot create a symphony. They can only create noise. Your well-being isn't an indulgence. It's a professional prerequisite. It's the core of your practice. So as we close, I want to challenge you. Don't try to overhaul your entire life tomorrow. That's just another recipe for burnout. Instead, pick one thing. Just one. What is the one boundary you can set this week? Is it a time you'll stop checking email? Is it a day you will leave your laptop at school? What is the one 5-minute mindfulness practice you can integrate into your day? Is it 3 deep breaths before the students arrive? Is it a moment of quiet gratitude during lunch? Choose one small, sustainable act of professional self-preservation. Do it not just for yourself but for your students. Because the greatest professional development you can ever undertake is the daily, intentional work of protecting the single most important resource in your classroom. You. The best thing you can do for your students tomorrow is to take care of their teacher today. Thank you for taking this journey. Now go and be well.